حمل خويا تدري اليسر ما ينحمل دمعه يجري على ظهر الهزل خويا تدري اليسر ما ينحمل دمعه يجري على ظهر الهزل ترضى امشي ويا العدا واطلع سبيه.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Late Night Talk with me, your host, Ahmed Ali. Now we have ended the first 10 days of Muharram, and tonight is a very sad night, and a night where everyone across the world looks at to learn from not only the sacrifice of Imam Hussein, but the sacrifices of those who survived the tragedy of Karbala. Now, everyone that believes in the aspect of freedom must believe in the source that it emanates from. For many, freedom is a source of hope for a better future, and the source for that freedom is the sacrifices of individuals who gave back to their communities. You put them together and you have Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam. Now tonight's topic will be a very interesting topic on one hand, because we are linking the day of Ashura into our modern day today, the age of Imam Al-Mahdi, and also with the concept of Imam Al-Hujjah. May Allah hasten his reappearance. This discussion will be with my dear guest and honorable guest, Sheikh Abbas Panju has joined us once again. Sheikh, assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Allah yakhallikum inshallah. Azam Allah ujurakum. Allah yaslimkum inshallah. Sheikh, yesterday, I don't know if the viewers got to see the chance of you reciting the maqtal, but it was very emotional. And tonight, inshallah, we will get to see just how Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam, 1400 years prophesizing about an individual who will come a long time after him.
Sure.
So how can we look at that aspect?
In reality, Habibi Ahmed, you find that the issue of Imam Al-Mahdi, Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif, is an issue that was foretold, an event, the rise of the Mahdi, the fact that the Mahdi is going to be in ghaiba, the occultation, the fact that he's going to fill the earth with peace and justice. This was a prophecy or a belief that each and every Imam called the people towards, including Sayyid al-Shuhada. In fact, if we look into this history of Mahdawiyya, yani the revolution of Imam Al-Hujjah, you will find that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa wasallam himself has got numerous hadith that have reached a level of tawatur. Tawatur meaning that the level of authenticity in terms of the numerous number of narrators that have mentioned this hadith, such that it cannot be seen as an isolated or a doubtful hadith. And you have a lot of these narrations that are recorded by the scholars of the Amma, the non-Shia scholars. So you find that this issue of Mahdawiyya is an issue that was very well adhered to, believed in from the time of Rasulullah. In fact, we have narrations that state even the Anbiya before Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam talked about the issue of Mahdawiyya. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informed them about the coming of this Mahdi. We have a particular incident of Nabi Yusuf, even before Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. There is a particular event for Suratul Yusuf, and there is istidlal from the Quran. Inshallah, if you are able to have a particular series for this, we'll talk about, or a particular show, just the relationship between Nabi Yusuf and Imam Al-Hujjah, Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif, which is established through ta'wil of the Quran.
Wow.
And we also have narrations from Nabi Adam. To give you a very quick summary, that when Nabi Adam sought for forgiveness for the tark al-awla, the act which was not recommended, performed by Nabi Adam, you find that he sought forgiveness. And when he sought forgiveness, Allah Azza wa Jal revealed the shining lights that were by the arsh. These shining lights were the nur of Ahlul-Bait. And he sees from these nur 14 anwar, 14 lights, divine lights shining, radiating from around the arsh. And they all seem to be in a seated position. Yani divine lights in the form of human beings. And from amongst these 14, one was in a position of standing. And Nabi Adam alayhi salam asked, Ya Allah, from these 14 divine lights, where I see that one stands out from in between them. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informs Nabi Adam, yani that this is the awaited Mahdi who will be in an occultation and will come to fill the earth with peace and justice. Yani the event of Mahdawiyya has to do everything, it has everything to do, just like it had from the beginning of human race until the end of human time. Because you notice the first thing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts forward when He creates the human being is what? Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa. The whole incident of human history starts with the issue of Khalifa of Allah. And the end of times is denoted alladhi yamla'ul arda adlan wa qistan kama muli'at dhulman wa jawra. The end of human history is also marked with Khilafah. So you have the issue of the Khalifatullah at both ends, the beginning of human time and the end of human time.
Now, Shaykhana, there's one issue and one question that rises when we mention a narration from Nabi Adam or from Nabi Yusuf. Well, Nabi Yusuf, there are a lot of people. From Nabi Adam, who narrates the story when there was only Nabi Adam there? There was no one else besides Nabi Adam. Now, how do we get that narration of him seeing Imam Mahdi, or the name of Imam Mahdi and the Arshullah? How do we get these narrations?
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, number one, has ilm of everything before it even happens. Ilm of the past and ilm of the present and ilm of the future. So when we are analyzing this question, we break it up into two parts. Is it possible for Allah to have informed the Prophet that things are going to happen in the future, regardless of whether it is Adam, Yusuf, Ibrahim?
Yeah.
Yes, it's possible.
Yes.
Yani because he is alimun,
Yes.
wa huwa ala kulli shay'in alim.
Yes.
So that part is solved. The second part is, how did these narrations reach us, particularly for the one of Adam? And this is why understanding understanding the source of ilm that is attributed or that is possessed by Rasulullah and by Ahlul-Bait is very important. Rasulullah receives ilm through wahi. He gains his knowledge through wahi.
Yes.
So it is not far-fetched to say for these asnad, for the chain of narrators of these hadith that end to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informed Rasulullah that in the past Adam had done this. Or this is one explanation. The second explanation is that Rasulullah himself was witness to the questions of Adam in regards to how he asked Allah, and Allah Azza wa Jalla replied back to him, because there were 14 noors around the Arsh. And we also have traditions from the Amma as well, that the first thing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created was the nur of Rasulullah, and from the nur of Rasulullah, the nur of Amir al-Mu'mineen. And hence they were witness over all these incidences that were occurring. So the two ways that the Prophet gets to know about these things, or the A'imma for that case, is that revelation is received to them from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, either directly or through Jibreel alayhi salam. This is one incident. This is one means through which they know of the past. And the second one is that they themselves were present and witnessed from around the Arsh. They witnessed Nabi Adam asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala these questions, and they come to us and they narrate this for us.
So it's good to get that out of the way. Now, Shaykhna, we had an earlier discussion, you and I, and you said that Imam Hussein alayhi salam, even on a day of Ashura, he mentioned, or he mentioned the name of Al-Hujjah, Al-Mahdi Al-Sharif. Now, how do you narrate that to us?
No, sure. You find this is widely narrated within the Maqatil. See, Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam gave his life for Islam, to save Islam.
Yes.
And the entire religion of Islam, in terms of its true, undistorted, undeviated versions and teachings, will be brought forward by Imam Al-Hujjah, number one. And number two, the correct implementation of Islam will happen at the hands of Imam Al-Hujjah.
Okay.
So this is the Islam as a deen. And Imam Al-Hussein excuse me, Imam Al-Hussein gave his life to save the deen. Since Imamat is a central part of the deen, it is safe to conclude that Imam Al-Hussein gave his life in order to preserve the teachings and the traditions of Imam Al-Hujjah,
Yes.
the coming of Imam Al-Hujjah. As we said a few nights back, that the core of the revolution was to revive this essence of wilayah, in particular wilayah of Amir al-Mu'mineen, and in general wilayah of Ahlul-Bait. So we have within the seerah of Sayyid al-Shuhada alayhi salam, that a number of times, even before the day of Ashura, that he would call people towards the concept of Mahdawiyah, and he would even warn them about the difficulties that that a believer would face during ghaibah. If we have time, we can explore those during the show,
Inshallah.
and you'll see how relevant the words of Imam Al-Hussein are. Sometimes you think, truly, could somebody have read the future so well, and this was said 1400 years ago?
Wow.
Which is another clear indication that the Imam has ilmul ghaib, and the Shia should not be called kuffar for this. Yani ilmul ghaib, the fact that they have ilmul ghaib doesn't mean that we have done shirk or attributed partners to Allah. The fact that they have ilmul ghaib does not take away from the ilmul ghaib of Allah. In fact, they are dependent on Allah for ilmul ghaib. The fact that they are dependent on Allah, this in itself shows us that there is absolutely no shirk. But coming back to your particular question, there are two incidences that I want to shed light on.
Yes.
Two places where Imam Al-Hujjah where Imam Al-Hussein calls out to Imam Al-Hujjah, number one, and educates the people about Imam Al-Hujjah. The first one is on the night of Ashura. So the text that I'm referring to is Maqtal Al-Mukarram. Abdul Razak Al-Mukarram Sayyid, Rahmatullah alayh, has done a fantastic job in putting together a Maqtal which is quite in detail, as opposed to the works done by Abu Mikhnaf, for example. He's got a lot of commentary, he's got footnotes. Umuman, the book is good. There are certain points that need a little bit of contemplation, but generally speaking, the Maqtal in itself is a fantastic resource to go back to. If I'm not mistaken, it's even printed in English.
Oh, wow.
It's available online. Hard copies are also sold. I've seen a few here in Karbala as well.
Okay.
So in any case, Abdul Razak Al-Mukarram, he points out a narration which is narrated by Abi Ja'far Al-Baqir alayhi salam. As you know, Imam Al-Baqir was also present in Karbala.
Yes.
The age of 4 or 5, any or lesser, around the same age of Sayyidah Ruqayya himself. He was taken to be amongst one of the Sabaya. He suffered the thirst and the hunger, and a lot of the narrations that we have from Karbala or about Karbala is from Imam Al-Baqir alayhi salam. So he goes on to say that Imam Al-Hussein said to his companions on the night of Ashura. If you remember, a few days back we spoke about how on the night of Ashura we spoke about how Imam Al-Hussein showed his companions their level in Jannah after testing them. So within this same incident, Imam Al-Baqir tells us that Imam Al-Hussein said to his companions, Ibshiru bil Jannah, fa wallah innama namkuthu ma sha Allah ba'da ma yajri alayna. ثم يخرجنا الله وإياكم. He says, I have glad tidings. I give you glad tidings about Jannah. But by Allah, we shall remain in Alam al-Barzakh up to the time that is willed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring us back to earth. Which is why we recite, this is an indication towards Alam al-Raj'ah. Which is why you find that in a lot of the texts for the ziyarat that we read for Ahlul-Bait, we say وَإِنِّي مُؤْمِنٌ بِإِيَابِكُمْ.
Yes.
We are believers in your return. Return yani what? Return in Alim al-Raj'ah. So you find that Imam Al-Hussein, see, these are all ma'arif of the deen. This is actually tabligh that Imam Al-Hussein is performing on the night of Ashura. And he says, حتى يظهر قائمنا فينتقم من الظالمين. He says, well, the title that is used for the 12th Imam is actually a title when it's heard that out of respect, as per the traditions, we stand up out of respect. Out of respect, we have from the traditions of the Imam, Ya Allah, Ajalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. We will try
and I want to get up and then I thought
La barakallah fikum. Alhamdulillah. This is from the Bain al-Qawsayn, because we are on this point, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, when it is narrated, when he would mention this title, he would stand up on his feet out of respect. And Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says that if I lived during the time of the Mahdi, I would be his servant.
Allahu Akbar.
Sadiq ala Muhammad,
Allahu Akbar.
Hujjatullah fil ard, grandfather, says I would be at the service of Imam al-Hujjah. Yani you can imagine the daraja and the sha'n of Imam al-Hujjah. Hatta yadhar, so Mahdina, we will say Mahdina. فَيَنْتَكِمْ مِنَ الظَّالِمِينَ. Yani, the Imam al-Hussein is telling his companions, after we are martyred tomorrow, we're going to be in Alam al-Barzakh until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills. And then we will be brought back to earth. And there will be this Mahdi who will avenge our blood for us.
Wow.
Yani, the Imam is speaking about not only the awaited Mahdi, but what one of the principal functions of this Mahdi is going to be. And the companions, what is Dhahiran, is they are surprised, because the tradition goes on to say, they say, Waman, the title which you're supposed to stand up, which we will say Mahdi.
Okay.
Manil Mahdi yabna Rasulullah. He says, who is this awaited Mahdi who is going to come and avenge us? Because they couldn't, it was not at that time something that was normally perceived. Up till the time of Imam al-Hussein, yani every Imam was madloom. Shias were madloom. They were never a majority. Within the minority, they were a minority and oppressed. So for Imam al-Hussein to tell his companions on the night of Ashura, when they are surrounded by thousands of enemies, hungry and thirsty, and Dhahiran, what is apparent is that Bani Umayyah is going to continue oppressing and persecuting the Shia.
Which they did.
So they were curious. They said, Ya Imam, Ya Aba Abdullah, who is he going to be? Look at what the Imam says. Qala, yani the Imam, As-Sabi' min wuldi ibni Muhammad ibn Ali al-Baqir.
Subhanallah.
The seventh son from the son of my son, yani my grandson, Muhammad ibn Ali al-Baqir alayhi salam.
Why couldn't you say the ninth son of mine? Or my ninth son?
You find over here hikmah. This is a very, very good point that you make. Yani, we know that the Imams, the divinely selected Imams are 12. And each one is from the lineage of the Imam before him. So within this tradition, he very subtly narrates in a very subtle manner that the Imam after me, Ibni, Zainul Abidin. And then he also goes on to make very clear, establish the imamat of Imam Al-Baqir alayhi salam.
Subhanallah.
And then from there, he goes on to take the names of the Imams. He says, Qala as-Sabi min wuldi ibni Muhammad ibn Ali al-Baqir wa huwa al-Hujjah ibn al-Hasan ibn Ali ibn Muhammad ibn Ali. Yani he's going backwards. Yani Hujjah, the son of Hassan al-Askari, son of Ali al-Hadi, son of Muhammad al-Jawad, son of Ali al-Rida, son of Musa al-Qadim, son of Ja'far as-Sadiq, son of Muhammad, yani al-Baqir, ibn Ali ibni, yani ta'keed.
Wow. Certainty.
And he gives out this entire outline. See what Rasulullah said. Man mata wa lam ya'rif imama zamanihi mata mitatan jahiliya. Through this one tradition, Imam is giving guidance to make sure that whoever this tradition reaches to, none of them over a period of the next, up till the birth of Imam al-Hujjah, 250, 260 years, nobody is going to die a death of Jahiliyyah if they adhere to this hadith, because he has given them the names of the Ahlul-Bait. وَهُوَ الَّذِي يُغِيبُ مُدَّةً طَوِيلًا. Imam goes on to then shed light on the occurrence of the ghaiba, the occultation of the Imam.
Yes.
ثُمَّ يَظْهَرْ, and then he will reappear. وَيَمْلَأُ الْأَرْضَ عَدْلًا وَقِسْطًا وَيَمْلَأُ الْأَرْضَ قِسْطًا وَعَدْلًا كَمَا مُلِئَتْ ظُلْمًا وَجَوْرًا. Yani, you find that Imam over here is speaking about three things. Number one, the identity of Imam Al-Hujjah, Ajalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. Number two, the reality of the fact of ghaiba. Because a lot of people began to doubt the existence of Imam al-Hujjah just because of the occultation.
Yes.
Till today, people doubt the existence of Imam al-Hujjah due to his occultation, not only from the Amma. Ya Baba, people who claim to be Shia, I myself with my ears have heard that there is a movement where a group of people, even if they're small and they're isolated, but it's a point of concern, where they come forward and they say that actually Mahdi is not a person, Mahdi is a concept.
Yeah.
And
Imam,
you will find, inshallah, if we get a chance, we look at the hadith that Imam Al-Hussein speaks about in regards to the Mahdi and the problems that we will face during the times of, this is a discussion, inshallah, we'll come through.
Inshallah.
But the three things that Imam Al-Hussein points to as the identity of the Mahdi. Number two, the fact that he's in occultation. Number three, the role of this Mahdi, that he is going to fill the earth with peace and justice. And this peace and justice, this freedom, because with peace and justice comes freedom. This peace, justice, and freedom is going to be established on earth by avenging the killers of Imam al-Hussein.
SubhanAllah. So it starts from there.
Ahsan, the prerequisite for establishing freedom, peace, and justice at a global scale, the prerequisite towards that, number one is to seek vengeance for Imam al-Hussein, which is why you have that upon the dhuhur of the awaited Imam, the slogan of the Imam and the slogans of the Shia, the Ashab and the Ansar of Imam al-Hujjah is Ya li Tharat al-Hussein, vengeance for Hussein alayhi salam. Yani this is going to be a character and a slogan that the companions of Imam al-Hujjah will shout out. And it's important to note over here that this is not a slogan that is verbally just spoken out.
Absolutely.
It is a slogan in which they believe. Is a slogan whose principles they lived throughout their life while the Imam was in occultation. And hence this ta'qeed, hence this importance of reasserting our relationship with Imam al-Hussein, our relationship with the Aza of Imam al-Hussein, our relationship with the Majalis of Imam al-Hussein, our relationship in terms of implementing the values of Imam al-Hussein. There is just one value I want to point towards, between brackets.
Yes, before we go to a short break.
We go to a break. You notice in this, when this just came to my mind, when Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, when he was intercepted by Hur bin Yazid al-Riyahi on the way to Kufa. The historians mention that Hur and his army was at the brink of death because of extreme thirst. What did Imam al-Hussein do? He fed them water. He quenched their thirst. What does this show you when you're trying to implement the values of Imam al-Hussein in this day and life? Generosity, yes, of course. There's something greater than that. If Imam al-Hussein wanted to engage Hur in war, he was with 1,000 men who were at the brink of death. Could he have done that?
He could have.
He could have. In fact, what could have happened is that it would have been the strongest message that Imam al-Hussein could have given to Ibn Ziyad and to Yazid. 72 men have annihilated 1,000 of your army. That even under the leadership of Hur. He was a known general. He wasn't just any normal cadet within the army. La, he was an established general. It could have been the strongest ever message for revolution.
It could have.
Number two, it would have given people encouragement to join because it's a victory. But what did Imam Hussein didn't do that? Do you know why? Imam al-Hussein was teaching us a principle in life that in Islam there is no exploitation.
Absolutely.
He could have exploited their thirst in order to gain victory over them and to send a message to Bani Umayyah. Perhaps even make Bani Umayyah retreat. He could have done that. But Imam al-Hussein is an Imam of principle. If me getting victory is on the basis that I'm going to exploit these people, it cannot happen. Victory is based on principle. Ya akhi, in this day and age, how much exploitation do we have in Muslim countries?
A lot.
Shia, how many Shia exploit, I shouldn't say Shia, how many people who claim to be lovers of Ahlul-Bait thrive on exploitation? And you look at within the Muslim countries, employment, their labor force is built on exploitation of workers from the subcontinent and from Africa and where not. Yani, these are the values excuse me, these are the values of Imam Al-Hussein.
Sheikh, drink water.
Ahsantum. These are the values of Imam Al-Hussein that we're supposed to live by them.
Taban,
And invite people to.
Of course, and one of the points that I loved that you made is regarding the time of the occupation that Imam Al-Mahdi, that when he goes in, the prerequisite to actually establishing freedom and justice on this planet is by avenging those who sacrificed themselves for those two purposes, for freedom and justice.
Absolutely.
You know, because when you see Imam Hussein a few nights ago, you mentioned that Imam Hussein, when he left, he says, "لم أخرج أشرا ولكن أشرا لا بطرا لكن خرجت لطلب إصلاح لمسجدي." I want to seek reformation for the nation of my grandfather.
Absolutely.
But Sheikhna will continue. But after this short break, inshallah, if you also respected viewers, do stay tuned for we will be back very shortly, and you will be presented with live footage or report from the city of Karbala. So do stay tuned and don't go away.
Ola sakine adın fedasi adın de zikre cemilan muca sucami elden susuz şaflar sana gelipler dakhilan muca salırıq beşikdə yatmır, alırıq qucaqlar, eləyir işarə əslər, oyanan dodaqlar. Allah şirin zəbani, yaş kimi götürlər, yağmurları salarlar, yas eyləyə yetirlər. Gedib təmanim, yanıb dizanim, tutubdi qəlbim, şərər ateşdən, solub uzarim, gedib qərarim, dönüb diqanə, tigar ateşdən, çöşəm suzan, güneşte can, yanar şararet, çeker ateşten.
Respected viewers, welcome back. Hope you, inshallah, enjoyed those footages. But you were just presented with scenes from yesterday night, Shai Ghariban, and the beautiful atmosphere that was going around, and how people were consoling the families of Imam Hussein alayhi salam and Ahlul-Bait on these nights. Sheikhna, yesterday night, alhamdulillah, you told me you were privileged to go around and see what Karbala presented and offered to the pilgrims, and you'll see candles lit up because it's a dark night for the Ahlul-Bait alayhim salam, a very dark night, a depressing night.
Way of showing your condolences towards
Yes.
Ahlul-Bayt, Aza al-Shumu', the way they call it. And in
Yeah.
fact, the ulama from the Hawza Ilmiya al-Mubarakah of Karbala al-Muqaddas came out yesterday in a procession holding candles.
Wow.
See, the candle symbolizes something very, very great.
It does.
Traditionally, it's always been candles that have been lit during the time of grief. So there are a number of dimensions since we're on this topic. The first one is that there is an emotional approach towards this. This was the night where Ahlul-Bayt were left in the darkness of the deserts,
Yes.
with no roof over their head, their tents being burnt down. They slept on the plains of Karbala in the dark. And this candle is there to, and as an emotional acknowledgement of the darkness, because darkness usually brings fear.
It does.
Especially when you have children. And you have the marauding armies who are beasts and animals in the other corner, and you're in the dark, and you're surrounded in this dark after having seen all your family members being killed around you. So you bring out this candle in terms of to acknowledge the fright that was in the hearts of the children due to darkness. This is number one. Number two, the candle has always been the universal symbol of solidarity.
It does. It has.
You notice even when there are vigils for tragedies that have happened, you'll always find that during the night, during these vigils, people come out with candles.
Yeah.
It's a sign of solidarity.
It is.
And over here last night, you have thousands, if not millions of people come out holding candles in solidarity. They plant the candles around the Mukhayyam and around Bain al-Haramain, and the entire Karbala, the lights, except the red ones, were lit off. The floodlights were lit off in respect to the tragedy of this night, and the entire city of Karbala was lit up with candles. And this solidarity builds this love in the heart and this affiliation in the heart together with Ahlul-Bait. لا أسألكم كل أسألكم عليه أجرا إلا المودة في القربى. And this is a way of showing this mawaddah.
Yes.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Alhamdulillah, we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us the opportunity to actually be in Karbala and on these nights, because it's a very blessed opportunity. Now, Sheikh, before the break, we were talking about the concept of Imam Al-Mahdi and how Imam Hussein mentioned him on the day of Ashura, and you just mentioned on the night of Muharram. Imam Al-Hussein prophesied of the Mahdi to his companions. Now, did he prophesize on Mahdi or reveal the concept of Mahdawiyya to the enemies? And would have that changed their mind?
Yes, indeed. In fact, you find that Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam called out to the Mahdi at one of the most difficult times on the day of Ashura. The entire day of Ashura was difficult, without doubt.
Absolutely.
And there are a number of incidences. I have picked one where the Imam refers back to Imam Al-Hujjah through his attributes or through his traits or functions, if you could say. Notice again, the text that we're using is the Maqtal al-Mukarram.
Yes.
Imam Al-Hussein cries out to Imam Al-Hujjah in front of the enemies upon the massacre of Abdullah al-Radi'ah. The infant is in his arms, his tiny tender neck shattered by a three-pronged arrow. And look at what Imam Al-Hussein says at this moment. Look at the moment at which Imam Al-Hussein is mentioning and remembering the awaited Mahdi. He says, ثم قال الحسين حون ما نزل بي أنه بعين الله تعالى. Thing that allows me to if we could very loosely translate this, the thing that allows me to live through this tragedy, to get through this tragedy, that allows me to bear this tragedy, is that I know that all this is happening under the watch of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yes.
Allahumma la yakun ahwan alayka min fasil. He says, Ya Allah, this tragedy is not any lesser than the tragedy of the camel, yani at the time of Ad and Thamud.
Yes.
Right? And he says, this is more pure, this is more divine than that. Ilahi, he goes on to say, Ilahi, in kunta habista anna nasr faj'alhu lima huwa khayrun minhu wantakim lana min al-dhalimin. He says, Ya Allah, if it is ordained for us to be massacred here today, then so be it. But you seek vengeance from us. Wantakim lana min al-dhalimin. You seek vengeance for us from these oppressors. Seek vengeance for Imam Al-Hussein. Who is going to seek vengeance for Imam Al-Hussein?
Who?
Imam Al-Mahdi. Yani it's the same thing that Imam Al-Hussein says to his companions the night before. What does he say to them on the night before? He says, وَإِيَّاكُمْ حَتَّى يَظْهَرْ. Instead of the title we say Mahdina.
Yes.
He says, حتى يظهر مهدينا فينتقم من الظالمين. Intiqam from the oppressors.
Yes.
Vengeance from the oppressors. Yani Imam Al-Hujjah. And over here, you find that Imam Al-Hussein is doing dua. Seek vengeance from us, or seek vengeance for us
From those who have.
from those who have oppressed us. Yani, he is mentioning the Mahdi, Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, by the traits of the Mahdi, by the job of the Mahdi, by the function of the Mahdi.
Now, Sheikh, wouldn't that be applied to Mukhtar al-Thaqafi, who also took vengeance from the enemies of Muhammad?
It could be in terms of it's a valid objection, but the application of the revolution of Mukhtar would not fit into these words, because intiqam over here is not only meaning seeking vengeance for the killing, number one, but number two, vengeance from those who have oppressed us by usurping our position of imamate, in terms
So
of
it goes earlier
restoring
than
the
Hussein.
imamate. I'm sorry?
So it would go earlier than Imam Hussein. So it would go all the way back to Fatima and Imam Ali.
Assalamullahi alayhima, of course. And for this reason, we say that the intiqam that was done, the vengeance that was carried out by Mukhtar, was a vengeance at its very best juz'i, yani
Yes.
partial.
Yes.
And number two, if, the punishment that was carried out by Mukhtar in regards to the killers of Imam Al-Hussein, but you find after that, the imamate was not restored back to Ahlul-Bait, to Imam Sajjad and Baqir and Sadiq and Qadim after them. And after that as well, you find that the numerous attacks on the shrine of Imam Al-Hussein during the time of Mutawakkil. But in either case, the application of these words over here, the intiqam, which is intiqam kamil, yani in its entirety, vengeance in its entirety, this is in the hands of Imam Al-Hujjah.
Now, a lot of people, when it comes to the concept of Imam Al-Mahdi, Ajjallahu Farajhu Sharif, Allah hastens reappearance, they talk about the idea of the things that will happen before him, leading up to the zuhur, to the occultation. A lot of people, as you mentioned, have doubted, because so much oppression has, overtaken this earth, and it just spreads so much and everywhere. You just see little children being killed, people being massacred, genocides happening, and they wonder, is Allah cruel, or is there no Mahdi?
Sure.
So these two thoughts are in their mind. That if Allah is merciful, why isn't the Mahdi appearing?
Right.
And if Allah was nastajiru billah, if Allah is He that cruel that He just sees this happening and there's no solution to it?
Sure. This is a very important question and a very valid question. It's a concern in the minds of millions of people.
It is.
And in fact, questions like these, when they're not answered in the correct manner or in a convincing manner, unfortunately, a person is pushed towards atheism.
That's why we have you, Sheikhna.
La astaghfirullah al-azim. We have our maraja, and we have Ahlul-Bait, alhamdulillah,
Inshallah.
maraja, who work day in and day out to understand the words, study the words of Ahlul-Bait, and provide guidance
Yes.
through their teachings. To answer your question, number one, it's a two-part question. Number one, in regards to the actions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah Azza wa Jal, number one, is merciful and is just, in the sense that He has also given man the power of free will.
Yes.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not interfere, you can say, as a general rule, within the free will of man, as in forcefully direct the free will of man in any one direction, as a general qaida. Man has got freedom.
Yes.
This freedom of choice, it is man that has misused his freedom of choice in order to oppress others. The fasad that we have in the dunya is due to people succumbing towards their lusts and their desires, and they will not stop at any boundary in order to attain what they want,
Yes.
even if it is at the expense of persecuting and genocides and
Yeah.
whatnot. So this is the first thing. It is not God who is responsible. God has given us free will. The problem is the manner in which man uses free will. This is in regards to the oppressor. Now, somebody may come and ask them, what's the fault of the oppressed?
Yeah.
Okay, he's using his free will to oppress me, but why doesn't God intervene with this?
Exactly.
And from here we say that understanding existence is very important, in that this dunya is not the only life which we're going to live. We have a realm of existence after this dunya, and that realm of existence is going to be based on the consequences of the actions which we performed in this world. Hence, if I was oppressed in this world, I should be, if I'm a believer in God, and this is why that belief is so important, and I'm a believer in the day of judgment, then this belief in judgment day gives me hope that everyone who has oppressed me and persecuted me, there is a day where I will be granted justice for this oppression.
Yes.
You look at two people
Yeah.
who are being oppressed. One who has the belief in the day of judgment, he has this hope inside of him that justice will be delivered, as opposed to somebody who is facing the same persecution but has absolutely no belief in any sort of hope or any sort of justice on the day of judgment. Look at the ability to cope with
Yes.
oppression.
Now, Sheikh, just to add to your point, and we can go back to the discussion. Now, hope of someone being, avenged with justice on a day of judgment, or given justice, but that's a different world. I mean, right now, if a lot of people say this, I want justice now.
Sure.
If a lot of people have gotten robbed, a lot of people have lost their loved ones because of the unresponsible acts of some, and revenge isn't there, or not revenge, justice isn't there.
Justice isn't
for them to be re-encompassed, or something brought back to them. Now,
Do you know why?
does
Again,
day of judgment really give the
100%.
satisfaction?
No, the day of judgment, they will definitely be recompensed, and recompensed much more out of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is for the day of judgment. However, when we come back to the dunya, again, this question why the oppressed people do not seek justice now, why justice is not being able to deliver to them now in the dunya for the crimes committed in the dunya, again, the answer lies, the problem is with humanity. Why does oppression prevail? Number one, to a great extent, because of the silence of the greater majority. Which is why, again, we said the revolution of Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam is so central towards establishing peace, justice and freedom. What does Imam Al-Hussein say in his mission statement? وَلَكِنْ خَرَجْتُ لِطَلَبِ الْإِصْلَاحِ فِي أُمَّةِ جَدِّ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُرِيدُ أَنْ أَأْمُرْ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَأَنْهَى عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ.
Yes.
أَمْرَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَالنَّهْيِ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ, in all its aspects, seeking political justice and freedom, seeking social justice and freedom, seeking ideological justice and freedom. All this comes under the banner, all this comes within the parameters of Amra bil Ma'ruf and Nahi anil Munkar. Today our problem is that number of countries, even at a political
We've
level,
switched these two.
a number of these countries, even at a political level, people are subjected to oppression and slavery and persecution and genocide. Why? Because majority of the world is just not concerned. People are so consumed by their own materialistic life that these principles of social justice have just been eradicated from the face of the earth.
Absolutely.
And this dhamir, this conscience doesn't lie within that. This oppressed people that they have, take any example, take for example the Rohingya Muslims, for example. Yeah, Baba, if these Rohingya Muslims, one nation, a couple of million people, had they stood up in determined, non-violent opposition or non-violent protest against this government for the oppression done on the Rohingya Muslims, their state would not be half as bad as what it is right now. But this lack of ihtimam, lack of feeling the need for social justice. We live in a culture that is so individualistic.
It is.
That it's about me and it's about my family.
That's
The
it.
culture that we live is a dog-eat-dog culture. God has created us with the power of free will. And based on how we use this free will, our accountability and our destiny will be determined in the hereafter. But the problems that we face now is largely because of the silence of the wider majority.
It is.
How many crimes happen and people are just not, people cannot just be bothered.
Now, Sheikh, now we go back to the issue that Imam Hussein alayhi salam, when he said, you know, إنما خرج لطلب إصلاح لأمة جدي, with the minor people that he had, you know, a lot of people look at that and they see that at the end result, 72 people. Why isn't Imam Al-Mahdi reappeared yet when you have so many Shias around the world? Sure. And still the corruption is rising. Imam Hussein saw the corruption and rised. Is it possible Imam Mahdi is not seeing the corruption, or he's not hearing about it? Is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala concealing something from him that he's not able to see or witness what people go through?
Sure. No. On the contrary, Imam is absolutely aware of every minor detail and every minor occurrence that happens on this entire earth and beyond. In fact, we have within the letter that Imam Al-Hujjah Ajalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif that he wrote to Sheikh Mufid, Rahmatullah alayh, and he mentions in this letter, and we are aware of the trials and the tribulations, to paraphrase a part of that letter, we are aware of the trials and the tribulations that you are going through, and our prayers are there for you. Yani, it's not that the Imam doesn't know. The Imam knows. We even have within our traditions that our a'mal, our individual deeds that we perform, twice a week, our scroll of deeds are raised up to Imam Al-Hujjah. Yani, as per one tradition, every Tuesday and every Thursday night. And we have verses from the Quran that support this, that they are witnesses over us, the Ahlul-Bait. So the Imam is absolutely aware of what's happening. It's not that the Imam is not aware. And this actually makes us to understand how the Imam is yearning to come out of ghaibah. How the Imam's heart must be bleeding. Have you found Imam Al-Hujjah, his rahmah, his mercy, is just like the mercy of Rasulullah and the mercy of Amirul Mu'mineen. Yani, his characters, his attributes are the same attributes as Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam. Yani, to show you the pain that the Imam is suffering in ghaibah. He wants to come out to deliver justice. He wants to come out to deliver justice for the orphans and for the widows, but he can't. Do you know how much this burns the Imam's heart? Look at Amirul Mu'mineen. To give you an example of how the Imam is yearning and how painful this ghaibah is for him. We have in a tradition, Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam, when he walked within the city of Kufa, when he would see an orphan, mujarrad looking at an orphan, just looking at an orphan, Amirul Mu'mineen would start weeping. Wow. How soft must his heart have been? How pure must his heart have been? When you just look at an orphan, you start crying. Not once, not twice. Every time Amirul Mu'mineen looked at an orphan, he started crying. Now Imam Al-Hujjah is just like his grandfather Amirul Mu'mineen. You can imagine the amount of tears Imam Al-Hujjah has shed from the beginning of his ghaibah till today, including today. Yani, the Imam is yearning to come out. The problem is that the masses, are they ready to accept the leadership of Imam Al-Hujjah? Do we have that core 313? They're the initial helpers. After the 313, we have tens and tens of thousands of people who will join in that revolution. But this 313 is core. And you know, many times this question, I remember I had asked one of the ulama.
Sheikh, can we take a break and we go back to that, if you will, inshallah?
Without
Respective viewers, do stay tuned, inshallah. We apologize for that, to cut you off. Respective viewers, do stay tuned for inshallah. We'll be back very shortly, so do enjoy the break.
ورد و ذکرimdi benim can yaralı can yaralı 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 bir sınık ney kimi hicrinden evadil hoşiyem eşkı ve gerçi merizem ne devadil hoşiyem kalmışam zinde eğer ker bu bela dil hoşiyem yoksa çoktan özümü mergeşi taban görürem yaralı 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 Kerbeladır vatanım bu gara köyne kefenim Vird o zikrimdi benim can yaralı can yaralı Mein Wohlgefühl bist nur du, du gibst mir meine Ruhe. Ich will zu dir, o Hussein, öffne deine Tür auch für mich, o Verletzter, o Verletzter. Kerbeladır vatanım bu gara köyne kefenim Vird o zikrimdi benim can yaralı can yaralı 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 Çoklar öz hacetini bu gara perçemden alar Derdinin çaresini sahibi el gamden alar 11 ay kuvveti kalbin o muharremden alar Yaralı 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 ey ki Abbas تو بر کل جهان هست پناهی تو گر
Welcome back, dear viewers. Hope you, inshallah, enjoyed that report. That was Ainoha, I believe in Turkish, and the inserts you got were from Karbala. So I hope you enjoyed that, inshallah. Now we are back with Sheikh Abbas Panju. Welcome back, Habib Sheikhna. Allah khalikum, inshallah. Now, Sheikhna, I know you have the cough and you're a little bit sick. So I asked from Abu Abdullah and Abu Fadl Abbas to give you health because yesterday and today you were reciting very much, inshallah, for Abu Abdullah. Inshallah. Now, Sheikhna, before the break, we talked about Imam Al-Mahdi Ajla Fadl Sharif. Now, you had a point to finish, but before that, I just have one small question. That Imam Al-Mahdi, may Allah hasten his reappearance, he's waiting for 313. That number, he's waiting for that number to be completed. Now, Imam Al-Mahdi, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, started a revolution knowing that the majority of his companions will leave, the people who will leave, and he will end up with 72. Now, why did he start a revolution with that number? And Imam Al-Mahdi is waiting for a higher number than that. Couldn't he have just done what Imam Hussein did, and then people would recruit?
Sure. It's a very valid question. The point that I was about to make before the break is that many times there is objection in that if there are so many millions of believers
Yeah,
of
and that
Ahlul-Bait,
as well. Yeah. Why
you know,
isn't he waiting for 330 only?
why from these millions aren't there 313 already? And
That's a
you know,
very
and sometimes, many
question to
times, the
ask.
question is like, oh, there's so many scholars and so on and so forth. How can there not be 313 pious ones? The question over here is not to ask why others are not within the 313.
Why aren't you?
Why am I not within that 313? This is one of the ulama, when we were having this discussion, this is what they came and said to me. You have to correct your thinking. Don't look why others are not in 313. Ask yourself, at this moment, you yourself, are you ready to be from that 313? What changes do you have to make to go through that 313? This is number one. Number two, the secret, there is a secret behind these numbers, in that there is a divine secret behind them that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of His divine wisdom, may or may not reveal to us. What comes to mind is that Imam Al-Hussein saw, in order for his revolution to be successful, these 72 companions in themselves were sufficient as the number of companions in order for this revolution to become successful. In order for the goal of this revolution to be actualized, these 72 as a band of companions are sufficient.
Okay.
Now, we are saying this from a Zahiri perspective. When we come and we look into Aqidah, yani the Imam himself is sufficient, yani whether 72 would have joined him or no. But we are looking at, because this dunya is a dunya of asbab, yani, you know, it's a cause and effect, and the Imams work within this system of cause and effect. So you find that if you're speaking from this perspective, 72 was sufficient in order for the goals of the revolution to be actualized. For Imam Al-Hujjah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has determined that no, in regards for the goals of Imam Al-Hujjah, in order for them to be actualized, this initial number of 313 is absolutely important. Why it is important that it's 313 and not 300 or 295 or 297? This ilm is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But you are able to say one thing for sure, that this 313, this number 313, is similar to the number of the army that came out with Rasulullah in the Battle of Badr. Yani the Battle of Badr, Rasulullah had 313 companions with him. And this is why you find in the ziyarah of Maulana Abul Fadl Abbas alayhi salam, you read one part of the ziyarah, and I bear testimony that you came out, or your position is like the positions of those who were sacrificed or martyred in Badr or fought in Badr. Why is there a reference towards the Battle of Badr? So number one, you find that the number of companions in the army of Imam Al-Hujjah are the same number of companions who were there with Rasulullah during the Battle of Badr. Badr was the first battle to be fought by Rasulullah in self-defense. The Battle of Badr denoted the rise of the religion of Islam as a superpower within the region of Hijaz that believes obviously in freedom and non-violence. Similarly, the rise of Imam Al-Hujjah will denote the rise of Islam, and Islam that advocates non-violence and freedom. And then we have hadith that the Imam, when he reappears, he will spread the religion at a time when the religion had died totally, and he will revive the religion, the values of the religion, in the same way that his grandfather Rasulullah had revived the religion during the time of Jahiliyyah. So just like the way Islam started while it was gharib, even during the time of Imam Al-Hujjah, Islam will arise again after it is gharib. So the values in terms of what they symbolize and what they denote, 313 out of the divine wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a strategic number in that sense. And as we also have within the 313, there are women included as well. We have narrations that there are 50 women from amongst the Ashab and the Ansar of Imam Al-Hujjah.
So 50 out of the 313.
50 out of the 313.
Okay, now Sheikh, see, you just mentioned that there were 313 present with Prophet Muhammad during the Battle of Badr. Now, during the Battle of Badr, there were only 313, correct? Now,
Yes.
does that mean when Imam Mahdi, there is only going to be 313, and if I'm not going to be, because
No.
there's a sort of issue going on
Sure.
with this.
It comes into understanding the terminology of the word ashab and the terminology of the word ansar. The 313 are the top-notch, most loyal companions of Imam Al-Hujjah on the face of this earth.
So
on the
generals.
face of this earth. The generals, you could say the high-ranking generals, perhaps those 313 who will then be governors in the government of Imam al-Hujjah, the highest of
So
the
the
high,
parliament.
the Salmans of the time, the Ammars and the Miqdads and the Mitham al-Tammars of our time. After this 313, underneath this 313, we have traditions that thousands and thousands will come into the fold and join the movement of the Imam. Within these thousands and thousands, so number one, person should not lose hope that if he is not from the 313, that he is directly going to be an enemy of Imam al-Hujjah. Abadan la. The doors of mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are open. Underneath that 313, the door is open for thousands and thousands. It's unrestricted in its number, who will come into the fold of Imam al-Hujjah and be a part of his revolution. And now what we say is that, why aim for the minimum? Aim for the highest. Person should refine himself spiritually and through his akhlaq and through his ilm and through his loyalty to Ahlul-Bait, service to Ahlul-Bait, to be from the 313. But if we are not able to make that 313, the doors of hope are not closed. There are thousands and thousands more.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it should also be said that within these thousands and thousands, there are those who will actually begin with the Imam and then abandon the Imam.
Wow.
There are those who will fight against the Imam. Yani there will be from, and we have hadith to prove this. We have people who are going to be in the army of Sufyani, but from the army of Sufyani, they will fight. They will fight against the Khurasani, they will fight against the Yamani, they will even fight the forces of Imam al-Hujjah. But at one point, the forces of Imam al-Hujjah will face the forces of Sufyani in Ramallah, present-day Palestine. And on this day, the hadith said, the hadith describes this day as Yawmul Ibdal. Inshallah, we have a series, inshallah, where we just dedicate it to, in detailed depth, events and occurrences leading up to the Dhuhr of the 12th Imam, where he will go from, from Hijaz, how he will come to Iraq and then move to Sham, and how Islam will spread and the role of Nabi Isa. It's fascinating. But on this time, on this day, in Ramallah, it's known in the hadith as Yawmul Ibdal. People who will be in the army of Sufyani, who have been nawasib their entire lives, who thrived on killing the Shia, the day that they meet with Imam al-Hujjah and the forces of Imam al-Hujjah, based on the khutbah of Imam al-Hujjah, people from the army of Sufyani will defect into the army of Imam al-Hujjah. Tamaman, like how we see in Karbala.
Wow. The 30, yeah.
Didn't we say that we had
32, yeah.
32 men from the army of Umar ibn Sa'ad turn around? And then we also have on day of Ashura, we had two archers. The name slips my mind right now. Two archers on the day of Ashura. We read this, or this was part of the Maqtal. It's within the Maqtal. 2 days on the day of Ashura, two people. They were in the forces of Umar ibn Sa'ad. They were already involved in attacking the Shi'as, the companions of Imam Al-Hussein. They were archers. When Imam Al-Hussein saw how a number of his companions have been killed, he cried out, Hal min nasirin yansuruna, and then they heard the wailing of the women and the children. Something awoke them within their conscience. And they went to Imam Al-Hussein, they sought for forgiveness. Imam embraced them. They turned around as archers, the same arrows that they used to shoot the army of Imam Al-Hussein half an hour ago. It doesn't say half an hour ago, but we are saying just shortly the same arrows that they were using to kill Imam Al-Hussein, they've turned around and now are killing Umar ibn Sa'ad. Wow. And this is why we are so insistent on doing tabligh in the right way. Advocating and preaching and bringing out to light the real teachings of Ahlul-Bait, even to the Nawasib. What is there to stop them from gaining guidance? at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And we have in history examples of these. So, and you take an example, you know, very, very clear example, and we're not trying to, we never promote sectarianism, and we never promote hate per se, you know. But just, you take an example by way of history, look at Muhammad ibn Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr was responsible for the usurpation of the right of Amir al-Mu'mineen, burning down the house of Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam. And this is unanimous within the books of history.
Yes, it is.
On both sides. Now we want to have an academic discussion, not based on sectarianism, nor any violence, nor anything emotion. Subhanallah, look at his son, Muhammad ibn Abu Bakr. The peak of wilaya, the peak of wafa to Amir al-Mu'mineen. Says that Amir al-Mu'mineen says, Muhammad is my son, who I raised.
Wow.
You can imagine the status that he's gone through. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, you are like my son. Yani imagine Imam Al-Hujjah comes out and says to you, you are like my son.
Allah.
To somebody like Sheikh Mufid, Imam Al-Hujjah, in his tawqi', he says to my dear brother, Imam Al-Hujjah refers to Sheikh Al-Mufid by saying my brother.
Wow. Subhanallah.
For coming back to our point, yani, it's not something to be surprised or astonished about. La, even the Nawasib will join from the army, those who decide to use justice within themselves.
Yes.
So within this, going back to your original question, yes, within the tens and the tens of thousands of people, they will be under the 313. But from amongst them, there are those who will defect and there are those who will remain steadfast.
Inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us, the tawfiq
Ya Rab.
of staying with Imam Al-Mahdi or being amongst them. Now, one of the questions that's always raised within the youth as well as the old, we always ask ourselves, is it too late for us to become one of the 313, or should we wait and be among the, the rest of the people who do aid the Imam? Because, being, this is the concept of people, their understanding. Being amongst the 313, you have to leave the world, leave the pleasures of the world, no more watching football, no more playing football, no more doing anything, and then focusing yourself only to and devoting yourself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is that true?
See, to be from amongst the 313, number one, person has to be staunch in his faith and his belief. I know what we say. I say this to myself and to all the shabab. Aiming to get to the 313 is not an overnight 180-degree change in lifestyle. Let's try and be a little bit practical about things like these. It's not about a 180-degree change in life. Person number one starts on concentrating my wajibat. Let me make a list of where I want to be spiritually in the next 1 year, in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years. Making plans for our life, mission statements, or just any sort of a plan in the next 1 year. I make a target within this next coming year. I make a list of all the wajibat that are required from me, those things that are obligatory, from salat to som to whatever it is. I say my first step in my target to get to the 313 is that I will perform all my wajibat. At the same time, I'm going to abandon everything that is haram, or abandon as much as I can from the things that are haram. And then after 1 year, I review myself. Like how in the businesses, at the end of the year, they have they balance their books and they have a balance sheet, for example. And they see how they progressed throughout the year in terms of their assets and their liabilities. Same thing for us. At the end of the year, I have to sit back. I say within this year, the target that I had put for myself, for example, I'm saying for example, from the haramat, say for example, I used to listen to music and I used to drink alcohol, for example. I see, okay, I was able to let go of music but not let go of alcohol. This second year, how can I let go of alcohol or drugs or whatever it is? The important thing is that there is a plan.
Yeah.
And I implement this plan in order to get to that level. So hence, the first thing that needs to be done is that I perform my wajibat, I leave out those things that are haram. Once I've got to a stage where I've got full control over these, then I add In addition to wajibat, I want to do mustahabbat. In
Yes.
addition to leaving out that which is haram, I will leave that which is makruh. Then I get to a further stage. I say, in addition to this, I will lessen the amount of things that are mubah and concentrate on, for example, wajibat and mustahabbat.
So we have to leave the pleasures of this world.
See, at an initial stage, what
Yani,
we say,
I want to be among the 313, but still, I want to be a regular guy that goes out, that does, anything within the boundaries of Islam, of course.
Right.
But basically, I want to live my life and not, be in a corner worshiping Allah 24/7.
see, as a person ascends the ranks of spirituality,
Yeah.
such that they are at the very top of the ladder, and they qualify for these 313. A person's outlook towards life is totally different on how my time should be spent, on how my life should be spent. This is something that comes out of self-realization and out of true cognizance and recognition in regards to the existence of our life. What we say for now, regular people who are trying to be a part of the movement of Imam Al-Hujjah, my first step should be, at least let me put my foot into those thousands and thousands who are there. Once my foot is within that rank, then I try and rise up to the 313.
Yes, 13.
So what we say now, particularly towards the shabab, is that it's right now, it's not about me abandoning all the pleasures of my life. Rather, we say enjoy those pleasures of life that are halal in a manner that is halal. Anything which is mubah in regards to our leisure or our entertainment, those things that are halal, those things that are mubah, for example, have them in moderation. So if I'm an avid fan of football, for example, I make sure that while I'm playing football or while I'm watching football, it should not be at the expense of me having my salat to be qada or my salat being delayed to a later time. Or priorities, ahsantum. Enjoy everything. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created the ni'mas of this dunya for us to enjoy. And if we don't enjoy them, who? The Nasibi and the enemies of Ahlul-Bait will enjoy them?
Yeah.
So the idea over here is that enjoy that number one which is halal in a manner which is halal, and do not let these make your spiritual obligations take a back seat. Hence, it is about balance.
Yes.
If a person is able to balance, he is able to have the best of the dunya as well as the best of the akhirah. The same thing when it comes to not only entertainment and leisure, but even when it comes to work. A person balances between the amount of time that he uses at work and ensures that he spends the same amount of time or a certain amount of time to improve himself spiritually.
Yes.
Salat at work, for example, is a big thing. You see, being with the 313, I'll give you a very quick example.
Yes, we have a few minutes before. I think we have 1 minute before the show.
I'll give you one quick example. Being with the 313, one of their traits is what? Is that they're fearless when it comes to the religion.
Yes.
Now, fearless does not necessarily mean that they are aggressive or violent people. No, fearless, yani they believe what they believe and they will not be intimidated from showing their belief. So to use this as an example, many times at work, I will not pray salat. Suppose I work in a corporation, I'll not pray salat. Why? Because if I go into the prayer room or I ask for a prayer room or I ask my boss or my manager that I need to pray, maybe the rest of my colleagues will look at me as an outcast or they look at me as an extremist because of the problems we face in this day and age.
Yeah.
So then what happens is, because they don't want socially to be outcast or looked upon as someone different, then they'll not pray and they'll say, you know what, I'd rather pray at home. By the time I reach home, many times my salat is qada. So one practical example is that if I'm aiming to be from the 313, no, I recite salat at work. I explain to my colleagues what this prayer about
and
is,
the difference between
what
this person,
dedication is. Now, just this act, this courage of you talking to your colleagues and your companions, okay, this is the courage that is matlub to be from the 313.
It is.
I'll tell you another thing, for example, because we have a minute or so remaining. For example, Christmas parties. Christmas parties at corporation. One of the biggest bala. I remember when you used to work in a bank before. Come Christmas and bala. You know, you're invited to Christmas parties and it's corporate networking and this, that, and you're invited for meals, restaurants where food is not halal. You say on the table where there's alcohol and you're scared if I don't attend, I'm not going to get promoted or my career is going to get restricted. This courage of saying very politely, bayani, being courageous, but at the same time not being aggressive. There's a balance between this, right? Just coming forward and saying that in our religion, in our faith, we don't say on the same table. Taban, there's a lot of kalam in this, there's a lot of ways, but this is not acceptable in my religion.
Yes.
You know, this courage, this is that courage needed to be from amongst the 330.
Inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you the opportunity
All of us,
to be among the 313s,
all
and
of
everyone
us, inshallah,
out there who really seeks to be among the companions of Imam Al-Mahdi, may Allah send your appearance. And there's a very nice quote: if you don't reach the 313, at least you be one of the companions. Just like if you don't reach the sun, you'll land on one of the stars, or if you reach the moon, you land on one of the stars.
But the important thing is aim for the sun.
Aim for the highest.
Aim for the highest.
Inshallah, inshallah. Thank you very much, Sheikhna, for joining us over these few
You're
nights.
very welcome.
It was an honor to present the show, the Late Night Talk
honor
with
is
you,
mine.
Sheikhna. Inshallah, we'll see you on a different time, if you will, inshallah. So, respected viewers, thank you very much for joining us today. Hopefully, we can continue the discussion on Imam Al-Mahdi, but at a different time. Once again, I would like to thank you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
اليسر ما ينحمل خويا تدري